Brian Norman Jr. has a reason to strut. The WBO welterweight champion is finally getting recognition, and his stock is going up. As his stock continues to go up, we get a chance to see great fights, because Brian Norman Jr. is a fighter who likes to not only test himself, but challenge his contemporaries. Let's talk about what's going on with him, what's on the horizon, and the latest about a potential showdown against rival Jaron Boots Ennis. After his destruction in his last match back in March, Brian Norman Jr. has presented himself as one to watch. The 24-year-old welterweight champion with the WBO title, nicknamed the Assassin from Decatur, Georgia. He wants all the smoke. And after his victory over Cuevas, the Japanese fighter Jin Susaki approached him with a challenge letter at the post-fight press conference. Respectfully, Jin requested an opportunity to fight for Norman's title. And Norman took it with respect and said, hey, if this can be worked out, we can get it done. Unlike when he was trying to make a deal with Jaron Boots Ennis, who really hasn't established himself to try to son another champion like Norman Jr. But getting back to Susaki, that'll be Brian's next fight coming up in June. It'll be in Japan. This will give Norman an opportunity to go international. The last time we saw one of the U.S. fighters do that was when Stephen Fulton went over to Japan to take on Monster Inoue. But the difference here is Norman is an ascending star in the sport, in the welterweight division. He's 5'8" with a 72-inch reach. He has power in both hands. He can box as well as fight. He can punch as well as take a punch. And as he looks to go forward in his career, there are plenty of fighters that won't do what he's doing. And it all came to light when he faced Giovanni Santillan a year ago. The fight against Santillan in May of 2024 was a spectacular match between the two. Santillan had come out landing some hard, strong shots, and Norman stood in the pocket and fought back, eventually breaking Santillan down, eventually sending Santillan to the canvas and his first loss. It was the 10th round KO for Norman Jr., and he looked spectacular doing it. I remember saying during the fight as I was watching, I'm like, Norman needs to kind of step out of the trenches and box a little more. But he was comfortable in the action that was taking place. And he was able to answer everything that Santillan had to offer, winning the WBO title and establishing himself as a world titleist. So with this fight that's coming up against Jin Susaki, when they go over to Japan, the offer will be they're going to have multiple millions of dollars being not only offered, but as a part of the promotion, which will give him great standing. What he has to do is mind his business and mark and return home with his title. The Japanese fighters have been coming on, but I'm not certain that this particular Japanese fighter is ready for a man like Brian Norman Jr. There's something about him that I have noticed that isn't amongst the regular range of guys presently in the sport of boxing. There's something special, untapped, under the surface. And I do believe he is one who will rise to challenges. And the ability to be able to rise to challenges is what will make the difference in matches. You see, some of the other world champions, they wouldn't do this. But there was one who did, remember? It was Devin Haney Jr. And you know the scrutiny that Jr. has incurred after becoming undisputed at the lightweight division, the youngest undisputed lightweight champion. So, as Brian gets ready to face Susaki, Jaron Boots Ennis is going to have to possibly face one of his number one contenders for his now dual belts that he holds. Shakram Gayasov, who's 17-0 with 10 KOs, is someone that Boots will have to face by August 12th or face being stripped of the title. Now, mind you, Boots and his camp could have gone right into a situation of facing Norman Jr. When they were trying to have talks about facing one another late last year, Boots made certain to make the dealing difficult. And if it wasn't he directly, maybe his dad, his team. But they ended up fighting Imantas Stanionis for pretty much what the Norman camp was asking for. A little bit more on the table, and possibly if you can't do that, let's have the venue in a different location. Boots not only shunned that offer or request, but then he went ahead, gave Stanionis more, and also relocated the venue. Today's order of business is when fighters are not trying to do the proper thing, the right thing, and avoid the threats. It's not about winning and losing, but it's about holding fast to leverage of controlling circumstances. As a champion, a true world champion, you can dictate terms. But champions come and go, especially in this modern era, because most of them are not students of the game. They don't hone their craft, and they look to get the quick money. What I've noticed about watching fighters like Brian Norman Jr. is he comes in with a sense of purpose in his matches. The record that he brings is 27-0 with 21 KOs, and he appears to be quite the fierce competitor. Boots, who's talented, could match Norman Jr. His record, 34-0 with 30 KOs. But does he really want to be undisputed, or he just wants to be the top dog? You see, being the top dog will be all perception versus the reality. You can give an impression to the people that you're the man. But if you haven't cleaned house, you can't possibly be the man. Now, Norman Jr., after he returns from Tokyo, in a tough fight, because it's going to be a tough fight for him over there. He's fighting as a fish out of water. But I expect him to return with his title intact. And then, what will Boots be able to do? Because you see, being a well-traveled champion will make a difference as well. Being someone who has put it on the line and gone through the fire, that will make a statement, and people will start to question, are his contemporaries willing to do what he does? And that's where the assassin will get that type of consideration, earned in the ring, between the ropes. Another father and son tandem that are getting the job done. And hats off to the Norman Senior and Junior camp for what they're bringing to boxing, because it's exciting and you have high anticipation for what's next. But what do you think? This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know your thoughts about these moves being made in the welterweight division, and who do you see standing when the smoke clears? Will it be Norman Jr., or will it be Boots Ennis, or will it be someone else that we have yet to see arise? Leave comments and let's discuss further. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.